the pair. Okay, so we're answering questions on worksheet 6B, right, or 6A right now, maybe. And it says 20 megabytes makes your bill 1120, and what else? Yeah. So to write an equation, ideas? Okay, you used point slope. So we start by finding the slope though, right? And I don't know what this comes out. 660 over 90, 110. I can't subtract, which gave us, what is it? 4.06. Either one is fine. All right. Then somebody suggested point slope, so I'm going to just use this one. The y value is 11.2, the slope x minus 20. Anybody have what that simplified down to? Are you okay with where we're getting all this? You good? So we get 0.06x. If we do this times this, I'm thinking we get 12. So is it 23.2 or not? I probably did something wrong. Did anybody have? What's? Oh, this times this is 1.2. So then if we add 11.2, that's not 10 though, is it? Oh, this is a negative. Gotcha. Okay, I'm good. It is coming out 10. Do you need me to show the steps since I was so confused? 0.06x minus 1.2, is that what you said? So then when you add 11.2, you get 10. All right, sorry, I was trying to skip steps and just confusing myself. Find a linear equation for the monthly cost. So that would be the cost equals 0.06x plus 10, where x is the number of megabytes used. Interpret the slope. What's the slope mean? Nobody did that? Yes, 6 cents per megabyte? Megabyte, not minute. Okay. And the intercept? Says, and vertical intercept. So the vertical intercept or y-intercept is, what does it mean? Yeah, did they call it a flat fee? What did they call it? Pays a flat monthly fee. So the $10 is the flat monthly fee. Or you could say it's the cost if you don't use any megabytes. Yes. Yeah, so you use slope intercept method where you put in, yes, yes. So no, it's not a fluke at all. If you're finding B, you can do something like this. Yes, absolutely. Good question. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Kendra, right? Can leave slope a fraction. That's fine. It's just that this one was money, so 0.06 made sense to me. Use your equation to find, so you just need to put 250 in for x here. Okay? Anybody else questions on either worksheet or anything? Yes. Yes. In which state have home values increased at a higher rate? Okay. So we need to subtract these and divide by 50 years. Did you call this year 0 in year 50, guys? I thought she said 20. No? Is this the one you wanted me to do? Okay. Did you want me to do 10? Actually, I'm only going to spend a couple more minutes on this because then I can come back at the end, but I don't want to run out of time for the new stuff, okay? And tomorrow's a review day, so we can go over 10 tomorrow if we need to. It's fine. Somebody subtract these two, divide by 50, and what do we get for Indiana? So that was the slope. We found 0, 377, 0, 0, and 50 years later it was 94300. We found the slope between those and got that, and that is for Indiana. Okay. Now, if we're going to do Alabama, we need to subtract those numbers and divide by 50 years. Anybody do that? Anybody get that? 1160? Okay. So they were very close this time, not like Hawaii and Mississippi or whatever we had on the other worksheet. So which one was increasing at a higher rate? Alabama. If those trends were to continue, what would the median home value be in Indiana in 2010? Okay. We're in luck if we used 0 and 50. If we called this year 0 and this 50 years later, what does that mean? If we're trying to write an equation for Indiana, which was the black numbers up here, is this a special point in? That's the y-intercept, right? Because over 0 and up 3770. So the equation would be y equals, let's see, Indiana was 1132 plus the y-intercept was 37,700. So if we wanted to find 2010, be careful, what do we got to put in? Yes, from 1950 to 2010 is 60 years later. So we need to plug a 60 in there and see what we get. I'm not going to take time to actually do that. And the last one says, when would they be equal? So we need to do that 1132x plus 37,700 equals, Alabama right here had a slope of 1160. And what was its starting value? Do we know that somewhere? Yep, right there, if we started at year 0. So then you need to solve that. Did it come out a reasonable answer? Anybody know? Or was it positive? Was it negative? Let's see. Should be positive this time, right? And then you would take that and add it on to 1950 to figure out what year they'd be equal. Did you do that? Anybody get an answer? Alan, did you have an answer? No? Back? Did you get a positive or negative? It's coming out positive, isn't it? Okay. Did anybody have 2021 or is it no? What did you have for X? If you solve this, you get what? Somebody solved it. Come on. What? And then you have to add that to 1950? Yikes. So what year did we get? 23, how much? So yeah, during or by, this would be by this year, is a long way in the future before those two would be equal. Okay, because Indiana's already way ahead and it's increasing almost the same rate. So, any questions? All right, we are going to learn about technology today. We're going to do regression equations on our calculator, and I have a couple comments, okay? Everybody needs a graphing calculator. If you have a different one you're going to use for homework, try to remember to bring that one so that you learn how to do it on that calculator as well. Hey, right by you right there. Okay, I need to know who's pretty good with their calculator. Anybody have AP Prob and Stats last year? Okay, so some of you who are pretty good with your calculator and or had AP Stats, if you would be willing to kind of help people around you who are struggling, because I can't get around to everybody. If everybody holds up their calculator and says mine isn't working, it's going to be a really long period, okay? We are going to talk about finding a line of regression using the calculator today. We're also going to do one by hand. And then we're going to figure out if it fits well and what its correlation coefficient is. All right, the correlation coefficient is going to be the R value that the calculator gives us. On the quiz, which is Wednesday, okay, we're going to review tomorrow. We're done with the new stuff. We're done with this whole unit. We're going to have a quiz on Wednesday. If it asks for the correlation coefficient and you don't know what that stands for and you come up to me and goes, I don't know what this correlation, I'm not going to tell you. If, on the other hand, the R value, you know it's supposed to be the R value and it's not showing up on your calculator because it got turned off somehow and you can't remember how to turn it back on, I'd probably help you there. But you need to know that it's the R value, okay? Now, the correlation coefficient helps us determine how well it's fitting. For example, this data is very linear. This data, not so much. We could find, if I were to draw a bubble around all this, okay? It's not looking very much like a straight little worm like this one, right? This guy looks like he got ran over by a car, okay? I could draw an equation through here where half the dots fall above and half the dots fall below. And it might be an okay predictor. But the correlation coefficient isn't going to be very strong because these dots aren't falling very close to that line. All right, the correlation coefficient is R. It always has the same sign as the slope of the line. So both, oh, here's another example. These are going to be negative because these dots are going down. This one should be negative 0.3. Okay. So correlation coefficient is always somewhere between -1 and +1. -1 would be perfectly straight with a negative slope. +1 would be perfectly straight with a positive slope. But it can also fall anywhere in between there. 0 would be like no correlation whatsoever. Okay, if we plotted the age of your dog versus the number of goldfish you own or something, there's no relationship probably, right? Did you have a question? No, okay. All right, guys. So this is roughly a 0.7 because he's kind of wide around here. The fatter our little blob gets when we circle all these, the weaker the correlation. This one's 0.3. This one says 0 because in order to get all those, I basically get a big circle, both of those. This is a negative 0.7 and a negative 0.3 because it's pretty weak. They're all around the place. All right, so real quick activity. Tell me what you think one of these are. What do you think this one is? Okay, but it's what? Negative. Good job. What do you think about this one? They have 0.5. I would guess that it's actually closer to 0.6 or 0.7. What about this one? Yeah, they said 0. What about this one? Yeah, they called that positive 0.5. I would have said probably 0.6 or 7. They have 0.9. That's a 1 because they're looking perfectly linear. I'm not going to ask you to do that on a test or quiz, okay? But I'm just trying to help you see what those would look like. All right, before we get started, we need to turn the correlation coefficient on so that we can see that R value when we do this question. This is what I need you to do. It's actually 2 places on the newer calculators. If you have a newer calculator, you can go to Mode and scroll down to the second page. There's one that says Stat Wizards and Stat Diagnostics. If you want to turn those both on, it won't mess up with anything else you're going to do. You don't ever need to turn them off. You can leave those both on, the Stat Wizards and the Stat Diagnostics. If your calculator doesn't have this when you go to Mode, okay, the other way to turn this on, and everybody could do it this way if they wanted, is to go second 0. Second 0 is a catalog that lists every feature of your calculator in alphabetical order. We want to scroll down until you find Diagnostics on, which is in the D's. if you find diagnostic on, not off, make sure it says diagnostic on, then hit enter twice and it'll say done. That was really exciting. Diagnostic on, done. Everybody good? So it's turned on one way or the other or both? Okay, we're going to use, it's going to show up as the R value on the screen when we do a linear regression in a second. All right, we are going to start by plugging this information into, or typing it into list 1 and list 2. It says here, graph a scatter plot by going stat enter, type the numbers in list 1 for the year where we are going to let 1988 be year 0, and then we're going to put the dollars in list 2. All right, before I do anything else, guys, what are we calling this year? We're not going to type 1998, and we're going to type what? Said years, to use that as year 0. You would get the same predicted value later in the problem if you use 1988, as long as you use that throughout the whole problem, but you'll have a different y-intercept than we will. This will be 1 year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, and 4 years later. Does that seem a little bit easier than typing all those big years in? All right, so this is what I need everybody to do. Are we ready? I need you to hit the stat key, which is 2 over from the green alpha key or whatever color your alpha key is. And then hit enter because we're going to edit these lists. Does anyone not have a list 1 and a list 2 at the top? L1 and L2. You don't have one?
I don't have one.
Okay. So what you want to do is go up onto the title of the one that anyone and do an insert, which is second delete. No, not to find a list 2. If your list 2 has been deleted, you need to insert and then type second and the 2, and it'll come back. Okay? She was missing a list. Does everyone have a list 1 and list 2 now? Okay. To be able to go onto these and clear out the numbers, if you go up onto the title of the list, arrow up, and hit clear enter, you will get rid of all your entries in that column. You don't want to hit delete because you'll delete the whole list, and then we got to do what we just did. We have to reinsert it. All right, so I'm going to clear out all the numbers in list 1 and list 2. Then what am I going to put into list 1, guys? The years since 1988. So I'm going to go 0, enter, 1, enter, 2, enter, 3. Pardon? To clear out everything that's in there? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Go up onto the title at the very top, yep. And then hit clear enter. And then type in 0, enter, 1, enter, 2, all the way up to 4. Arrow to the right to list 2 and put in these cash flow values, 2.38, etc. Then please make sure that you proofread your numbers, because especially on a quiz, you will not get the right answer if you type in the wrong values. Imagine that. It's no. We're going to go over tomorrow that sheet that had the gold sheet that had the value, and I'm going to show you an example of each kind, the learning targets, yes. But you will not get a sheet in this class, probably ever, that says this is exactly what the quiz is going to look like, okay? Yeah, but they're not going to do that for you in college, so we're getting you ready. I have that learning target sheet, so I'm going to show you where to find an example like every question on the quiz. It's just not going to be on one pretty sheet. Okay? Everybody got those numbers in their calculator now? All right, the next thing we're going to do is this step right here. It says turn on the plot. It says go second, y equals. So we're going to go second and y equals. We're going to hit enter a couple times so that it says on in the darkened box. If you're darkened around the word off still, you need to go back to the on and hit on. With second y equals. It also needs to be a scatter plot, which is the first type here. If you don't have that one selected, arrow down and hit enter on that type. And you want your X list to be list 1 and your Y list to be list 2. Anybody's different? You need to fix it? Okay, go back to your X list and over the top you'll just do second 1 and then go down to the Y list and do second 2 so that it says list 1 and list 2. That work? And the mark, you can pick any mark you want. I just pick the biggest one so I can see it a little better. All right, here's the magic. Did we do this correctly or not? You ready? I need everybody to do a zoom, which is at the top here, the little F buttons here, we need to do zoom. And we are doing statistics right now, so we're going to go down to zoom stat, which is 9. You can just type the zoom key in 9, and it should look like this. If you have a line cutting through the middle like I do, it's because I have some garbage in my y equals I need to delete. But it should look like this. Whose isn't working? Calculator. Have the stat plot on. The second y equals has to be on. Also, if you go to guys to be able to tell that you have a stat plot turned on, if you go to y equals, see at the top how my plot 1 is darkened. Okay. Everybody good? Do we need help? Somebody's not working? Okay. So we're going to quickly draw a sketch here. It looks pretty straight, right? I'm just going to do this. It says label these. So these were years since 1998, 88, right? And this was dollars, cash flow per share, whatever. I'm just drawing a really rough sketch here. All right, what do you think about the correlation looking at your sketch? Positive or negative correlation? We predict the R is going to be positive. And what else? Is it going to be like 0.5, 0.6, closer to, yeah, close to 1. So you could have said a strong positive correlation. We're going to actually find that R value in a second, but I just wanted us to think about what it's going to be. Everybody okay? All right. The next part is actually calculating the regression equation. This is what you have to know how to do for the quiz. Okay. The quiz does not require you to sketch a scatter plot. To do this, you are looking at the back of your sheet, I think, at the top. Is that right? On the back of worksheet 6, are we on 6 or 7? 7, back, so 7B. All right, it says finding a line of regression or line of best fit using your calculator. Once you have entered this data in list 1 and list 2, you're going to follow these steps right over here. This is true for everybody. Okay, so it's stat. Oh, hang on, I got, sorry, that's my mouse issue, not the, okay. Stat, we're going to calculate, so you arrow to the right once, and we want to find the line of regression, so I'm just going to type a 4. You can go down on it and hit enter if you want. If you have a newer calculator, you have this nice little wizard that will ask you what you want to do. If you don't have a newer calculator, I'm going to show you how to do it. It's a little bit longer steps, okay? But you need it to say your X list is list 1 and your Y list is list 2. Your frequency list, you don't want one there. The store regression equation is where we want to go next. So I'm going to scroll down to the store regression equation. Yes?
My X list says L2.
Okay, so go to the X list and do second one, enter. Does it say L1 now? Okay. The store regression equation, we want to store it in Y1. Now, it's tricky to find that notation. It's under the vars key. Everybody pay attention here, even if you have an older calculator, because you're going to eventually need to know where this is. This vars next to clear. Arrow to the right because we're looking for a Y variable. Hit enter because we're in function mode. Now, which of these do we want to store it in? I really don't care. I'm going to just put mine in Y1, so I'm going to hit enter. So it says I'm storing this in Y1. Okay. Yeah, yours is different, okay? The older calculators, you can't do this all at one step. You can, but you have to do some comma junk, okay? I'm going to hit enter twice, and it should look like this on your screen. Just enter. Oh, vars, arrow to the right, enter, enter, till it says Y1. Does that sound right? Okay. Now, if you have an older calculator, look up here, please. You have to type it like this on your screen. I don't think you need the parentheses. This is what it's going to look like. I can make my calculator look like that by doing second. Okay, stupid. Sorry, it's my mouse. Ah! This is what it's going to look like on your screen. I need it to say line of regression and then L1, comma, L2, comma, Y1. So if you have an older calculator, you type stat, right arrow, 4, and then you go second 1 to get L1, then the comma key, which is above the 7, then second 2 to get L2, then the comma key, which is above the 7 again, and then the vars, right arrow, enter, enter to get Y1. And then you should be able to hit enter and get this. Okay, who's stuck? Okay. Doesn't have this other 999. Anybody not have the R show up? Okay. All right, guys, so what are we going to write down for our equation? Yes, the A and the B values we're going to stick in here. So it's going to say y equals 0.421x plus 2.378. Okay? If you get a big, long, crazy number, go ahead and round to the nearest hundredth or 2 decimal places. What is the correlation coefficient for ours? Yeah, it's 0.99995, which is roughly 1, right? Yeah, if you wrote 1, I would probably be okay. I'm going to put 0.9995 just to remind myself it wasn't exactly 1. Okay. Go graph, guys. Hit the graph button. Anybody's not showing the line. If you're not seeing the line, it's because you did not store the equation. Does everybody have the line on their graph? All right. The other thing we're supposed to do is use this to predict a value. Okay, let me go through just a couple things that can happen. If you get a message that says dim mismatch, it means you don't have equal number of items in both of your lists. They're ordered pairs, so they have to be equal number of items. Does that make sense, guys? You can't put in more X's than Y's. You'll get a dim mismatch error, so go back to stat enter and fix it. All right. Now, someone read me that line again. What was it? 0.6 point something? Yep, totally. Okay. Now it says use this equation to predict the cash flow in the year 2000 and predict for 2014. There are multiple ways to get this answer. The easiest way is to go back to your home screen and type it in, replacing X with the number of years since 1988. But there are ways to cheat and do it faster. Okay? 2000 to 1988 would be what? So we're going to put in X equals 12. So again, the easiest way would just be second mode to quit out of that and go 0.421 times 12 plus 2.378 is, do I have it memorized yet? Okay. I got 7.4, yes? 7.43 or something. So it's roughly $7.43. Did someone else get that? Okay. You can do the same thing, replacing 2014 would be how long from 1988? Minus 1988 would be 26 years, so you can put in a 26. Now, because we stored the equation, you could also use your table. How many of you have used the table before? So you could go second and then the graph and look at the table. Now, most of you probably have a table that looks like this, okay? Does it have a whole list of X values in Y1? Okay. And so we would need to know if we wanted 26, we'd scroll down and get 13.3. Did someone get that? Okay. What if we wanted to know the 123rd year? Do you want to really scroll down to 123? Okay. I'm going to show you this slick little feature that the calculator has, and you don't ever, we'll use this later. But you can go to second window and put this in Ask Auto mode, Ask and Auto. And then if I go to the table, it doesn't give me anything until I have to have saved the equation in Y1. Okay, but now I can ask it. I can say, I need year, what was the year, first year we needed, 12? I can type 12, enter. I can type 26, enter, and it'll give me those without having to scroll around, okay? Without having to scroll around. But what's the easiest way to do this for the quiz on Wednesday? To go back to the home screen, type 0.421 times 26 years plus 2.378, and write it down and get 13.3, yes? 1332 if we round to, I don't care, 13.324, whatever you want to put. Okay, anybody lost? We're going to skip to example 3 because example 2 is not a calculator question and I'm going to run out of time. Example 3 is a little bit tricky because it says right here they want us to do the number of books read equals the slope times the number of hours TV watched plus some initial value. Which of those is the Y value? The number of books. They want this to be the Y value. So the easiest way to do that is to put that in what list? If we want it to be Y, it would be easier to type it in L2. And we want this one to be an L1. Otherwise, you have to go in and tell it to use X as L2 and Y as L1. All right, how fast can we type these in? I'm not very fast. So first of all, you could go to Y equals and get your old equation out of there. Stat, enter. Now, remember, L1 is the TV, so make sure you're putting those numbers in L1. Please do this, guys, with me. Okay. Then go over to list 2. Again, up onto the title, clear enter if you want to get rid of those, and then put in the number of books. You do have to be able to do this as a skill on Wednesday's quiz. And you can't ask me, where are those buttons, okay? That's what you need to know. Do you have the 5 data points in? Type the numbers in. Clear enter clears out the list. Do you have the... Okay, then you need to put these numbers in. Did you put these numbers in? List 1 and list 2? Okay. If you have those in list 1 and list 2, you don't need to clear enter anything. All right. Stat enter to go back to the list. All right, guys. Now I want you to do stat, right arrow. What are we going to do? 4. Make sure it says list 1, list 2, and store in Y1, which is vars, arrow to the right, enter, enter. Okay, this is what I got this time. Y equals negative 1.6x plus 6.3. I'm rounding to the nearest tenth this time because I'm in a hurry. Someone else get that? Okay, correlation coefficient. Negative 0.987, something like that. All right, what about this business part B says, what if they didn't read any books? Where are you going to put any books? Any books, they didn't read any books would be a Y value. So you're going to put Y equal to 0 and solve it. 0 equals negative 1.6x plus 6.3. If I subtract and divide, anybody got that for me? 6.3 divided by 1.6? About 3.9 hours of television. Thanks. You need to be working on worksheet 8 tonight, okay? Linear regressions are on worksheet 8.